Please take a moment to subscribe to this channel if you believe that no one should lose their job for attending a parent's funeral. These stories are real, and sometimes sharing them is the only way we stop them from happening again. I still remember the moment the phone rang. It was a quiet morning. I was sitting at my small table, holding a warm cup of tea in my hand. I had just opened my laptop to start work. Everything seemed normal. The sky outside was clear. My cat was sleeping on the couch. But the second I saw my brother's name on the screen, I knew something was wrong. He never called this early unless something had happened. My heart started to beat faster even before I picked up the phone. When I answered, his voice was soft. Too soft. He said one word first, just my name. And then slowly he told me. Dad had passed away. Suddenly. That morning. No warning. No time to say goodbye. I felt the air leave my body. I didn't know what to say. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. I sat still, like time had frozen. I heard my brother crying on the phone, but it sounded far away, like it wasn't real. I don't remember how long I sat there. Maybe minutes, maybe more. My tea got cold. My hands were shaking. I kept repeating in my mind, no, this can't be true. Not now. Not like this. My father had been healthy. At least that's what we thought. He had no major illness. He wasn't very old. He was strong, always busy fixing things around the house, taking care of the garden, helping neighbors. And now, just like that, he was gone. A heart attack, they said. Very quick. He didn't even make it to the hospital. After I hung up the phone, I sat there in silence. I stared at my laptop screen. It was still open to my emails. And then, out. Of habit, I opened a new message. I typed an email to my manager. Her name was Lisa. I wrote that my father had passed away, and that I needed 3 days to go home and attend his funeral. I said I would return to work after that. I told her I would try to check messages if I could, but I wasn't sure how things would go. She replied within 10 minutes. She said, "Take what you need." She told me family comes first. Her message felt kind. I was grateful. I packed my bag quickly. I called a taxi and went straight to the airport. My flight was in the evening. I spent most of the time just sitting, staring at the people around me. Everyone was in a rush, moving, laughing, talking. And I was there like a statue, trying to breathe. My chest felt heavy. My hands were cold. I couldn't believe I was going to bury my father. I kept thinking maybe this was a mistake. Maybe I would get there, and they would say he was okay. But deep inside, I knew the truth. When I reached home, it felt strange. The house looked the same, but everything felt different. My mother's face broke my heart. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her eyes were red, and her voice was weak. My brother hugged me tightly. He didn't say much. We just stood there, holding each other. The next few hours passed slowly. Friends and relatives came. Some cried, some prayed, some just sat with us. I tried to be strong for my mother. I helped with the arrangements. I answered calls. I spoke to people. But inside, I was lost. The funeral was simple. We followed all the steps carefully. My father had always said he wanted something simple and respectful. No noise, no show, just prayers and peace. When I saw his face one last time, I couldn't stop crying. He looked calm, like he was sleeping. I touched his hand. It was cold. That's when I truly understood he was gone. Forever. After the burial, I stayed by the grave for a long time. My mother sat beside me, holding a small prayer book. My brother stood behind us, silent. The sun was setting. The sky turned orange. Birds flew overhead. Everything looked beautiful, but I felt broken. I whispered a few words to my father. I thanked him for everything. I told him I would take care of Mom. I promised to make him proud. The next 2 days were full of people visiting, bringing food, saying kind words. But no words could fix what we were feeling. My mother didn't sleep much. I stayed in her room just to be near her. Sometimes we cried together. Sometimes we just sat in silence. Grief is strange. It makes time slow down and speed up at the same time. It makes you feel heavy and empty at once. By the third night, I started thinking about work again. I knew I had to return the next morning. I didn't feel ready, but I had already told Lisa I would be back after 3 days. I didn't want to lose my job. I needed that income. So early next morning, I packed again and took a flight back to the city. I didn't talk to anyone during the journey. I just kept thinking about my dad, his voice, his laugh, the way he always called me his little warrior. I kept hearing him say, "Be strong, my girl." When I reached home, everything felt empty. I dropped my bag and sat on the couch. My cat jumped into my lap. I hugged her tightly and cried. I had been strong for my family, but now that I was alone, all the sadness poured out. I missed him. I missed him more than I could ever explain. But I wiped my tears and set my alarm. I had to go back to work the next morning. I told myself I could do it. The next day, I logged in on time. I joined the morning meeting. I smiled. I nodded. I said a few words. But inside, I was still somewhere else. I couldn't focus. My mind was full of memories. My heart felt heavy. But I tried. I answered emails. I reviewed files. I told myself, just get through the day. No one from the team messaged me to ask how I was. Lisa didn't check in. I thought maybe they were just giving me space. The second day back, I got a message from Lisa asking for a one-on-one meeting. I thought maybe she just wanted to check in. I joined the call right on time. Her face was serious. She didn't smile. She didn't ask how I was feeling. She said, "We need to talk about your absence." I was confused. I reminded her that I had emailed her. She had approved my leave. She nodded slowly, but then said she thought I would still be reachable. She said she didn't expect me to completely disconnect. I didn't understand what she meant. I told her I was attending a funeral. I was with my grieving family. I didn't have time or energy to check emails. She didn't seem to care. She said my absence caused issues in the team. She said deadlines were missed, that people had to work extra hours. She said it showed poor responsibility. And then she said the words that changed everything. She said, "We've decided to let you go, just like that. No warning, no meeting before this, no chance to explain." I was shocked. I couldn't speak. I just stared at the screen. She ended the meeting quickly. I sat there, frozen, with tears in my eyes. I had just buried my father, and now I had lost my job. I didn't know how to feel. I felt like the world had turned its back on me. I felt punished for being a daughter, for being human, for needing a few days to say goodbye to someone I loved more than anything. I started doubting myself. Maybe I should have checked my phone. Maybe I should have worked from the funeral. But deep down, I knew that wasn't right. No one should have to choose between family and work. No one should be treated like that. I spent that evening sitting in silence. I didn't call anyone. I didn't eat. I just sat on the floor, holding my knees, crying softly. I felt invisible. I had given so much to that job. I had worked late. I had skipped vacations. I kept thinking about that call, the one where Lisa fired me. Her voice was so calm, so formal. She didn't even look uncomfortable. It was like she was reading from a script, like this was just another task for her, something to cross off her list before lunch. I had worked there for 3 years. I had stayed late, picked up extra shifts, helped teammates who were struggling. I had done everything quietly, without asking for credit. And still, when it came down to it, I was just a line on a spreadsheet, one that could be deleted without a second thought. That night, after I lost my job, I didn't sleep much. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The silence in my apartment was loud. Every sound felt sharp. I kept replaying her words in my mind. Weeks passed, and little by little, I started feeling different. Not stronger in a loud way. Not like I had everything figured out. But like my feet were slowly learning how to stand again. Every day I woke up, I made a small choice. To keep moving. To keep feeling. To keep listening to the quiet voice inside me that said, "You're still here. And being here means you still have something to give. Something to say. Something to become." I thought a lot about what kind of life I wanted to build from this moment forward. I didn't want to go back to just surviving, just ticking boxes, just trying to meet someone else's idea of success. I wanted to build a life that made room for who I really was. For my grief, for my softness, for my voice. I didn't want to feel like I had to hide the parts of me that hurt. I didn't want to smile when I was breaking inside just to keep a paycheck. I started taking long walks. No music, no phone, just me and the road. It helped me think. Sometimes I talked to my dad out loud. I told him what was happening. I told him about the jobs I was looking at, about the things I was writing, about the fear I still felt, and the small hope that was growing beside it. I imagined his reply. I imagined him nodding, smiling, saying he was proud. I held on to that feeling. It gave me strength on the days when I felt small. I also started talking more openly about what had happened, not just online, but with people around me. I told them the full story. I didn't leave out the hard parts. And to my surprise, many of them started opening up too. Some told me about their own job losses, others about the pain they had hidden while trying to be strong at work. One friend said she once had to attend a video meeting 10 minutes after learning her grandmother died. Another said she took unpaid leave to care for her mother with cancer, only to return and find her role given to someone else. The more I listened, the more I realized this wasn't just about grief. It was about how we treat people when they're not okay, about how we reward silence and punish honesty, about how many people walk through life pretending to be fine because they know the cost of telling the truth. That made me feel even more sure that I had to speak, not just for myself, but for everyone who has been through it and stayed quiet because they were afraid. One evening, I received a message from a girl I had never met. She said she watched a short video I posted online where I talked about losing my father and my job in the same week. She said it made her cry. She said her father was sick, and she was scared of what would happen next. She said my story helped her feel a little less alone. I sat with that message for a long time. Then I cried too. Not because I was sad, but because I finally felt like something good was coming out of the pain. That night, I sat at my table and wrote something different. Not just my story, but something more. I wrote about how we can treat each other better. I wrote about what real support looks like. I wrote about the importance of slowing down, of asking people how they really are, and meaning it. I wrote about how important it is to listen without judgment and to understand that not everyone heals on the same timeline. I started to feel like maybe this was the work I was meant to do. Not just jobs for money, but work that came from my heart. Work that helped others feel seen. I didn't know how it would grow. I didn't know what it would look like, but I trusted that if I kept showing up with honesty, something would take shape. I started sharing more regularly. Short posts, small videos, words I wished someone had said to me during my hardest days. I also started doing small things in my own life that felt meaningful. I checked in on friends more often. I sent voice notes instead of texts, just so they could hear a real voice. I brought food to a neighbor who had surgery. I spoke gently to myself on days when I felt behind or unproductive. I reminded myself that rest is not laziness, that healing is not a straight line, that doing less is not the same as being less. There were days when the sadness still came. Grief is not something you finish. It doesn't follow a schedule. It lives with you, changes shape, surprises you. Sometimes I would be laughing with someone and suddenly feel a wave of sadness wash over me. A song, a smell, a memory could bring tears without warning. But I stopped fighting those moments. I let them come. I made space for them. And in that space, I found peace. I began to understand something important. The pain I felt wasn't something to hide. It was something that connected me to others. We all carry something, a story, a loss, a fear. When we share it, we don't make each other weaker. We make each other stronger. Because suddenly, someone else knows they're not alone. And that can be the difference between sinking and surviving. One day, I was asked to speak at a small local event about workplace mental health. At first, I didn't want to go. I felt nervous. I thought, who am I to talk? I don't have a big title. I don't have all the answers. But then I remembered something my father once said. He told me, you don't need to be important to make an impact. You just need to be honest. So I said yes. I wrote my speech with shaking hands. I practiced it in front of the mirror. When the day came, I stood in front of a small group of people. My voice shook at first. My hands trembled. But I told the truth. I told them about my father, about Lisa, about the silence, about the pain. I told them about how hard it was to get up in the morning, about how healing didn't come from big actions, but from small steps, one breath at a time, one word at a time, one honest moment at a time. When I finished, no one clapped right away. But then a woman stood up and walked toward me. She didn't say anything. She just hugged me. After that, others came too. Some hugged me. Some cried. Some just said thank you. I didn't need applause. I just needed to know that my story had reached someone. And it had. After that event, I felt something shift. I still didn't have a new job. My future was still uncertain. But I had found something more valuable. A reason to keep going. A sense of purpose. A feeling that maybe all this pain had a place in the world. That maybe it could help others feel less lost, less broken, less alone. In the following weeks, I began working on a small project. A blog. A space where people could share their stories. 2. I invited people to write about their own experiences, not just about grief, but about anything that made them feel invisible. The response was beautiful. People from different places, different ages, different jobs, started sending me their stories. Some were long, some were just a few lines, but all of them were full of truth. Reading their stories changed me. I saw courage in every word. People who had lost parents, siblings, friends. People who had battled illness, heartbreak, poverty. People who had kept going even when the world made it hard to breathe. These weren't weak people. They were strong in the most human way, and I was honored to hold their stories, to share them, to make space for them. I started to believe again, not in systems, not in companies, but in people, in the quiet power of honesty, in the strength that lives inside us even when we feel broken, in the beauty that can grow from pain when we don't rush to cover it up. I knew now that losing my job was not the end. It was the start of something I never planned, but something deeply real.